My name is Damiano Sabatino, and I'm Vice President of Account Management at Travelport. Our company is a commerce platform, it's a travel commerce platform. You can find more about us at www.travelport.com. Today, I will talk to you about digital trends in travel, and this presentation was actually supposed to be delivered in Berlin during a specific event at the ITB conference. As you know, the event has been cancelled due to the coronavirus impact. We are in Europe, and I would say in the world, we are under this severe impact of this emergency, and we had to change our plans completely. And I thought whether delivering a presentation on trends was still relevant, although on a virtual mode. And my conclusion is that yes, it is still relevant, maybe even more than before, because it's at the end of the day, we are delivering this presentation via a digital platform, via digital media, which means that technologies can make really more sustainable our business and can help us in facing challenges. The digital transformation, which is what I'm going to talk to you about in a few moments, is for some businesses a challenge and an opportunity, but is one of those challenges that can help us in, again, in making our business a better business. Things like voice search, big data, all these emerging trends are elements that are really contributing to change the face of our business and making it much more dynamic going forward. Let me share with you some slides. These slides that you're going to see now are a summary of the survey that we run every year, the Travelport runs every year, on trends in the travel industry. And this year we have expanded the scope of the research, not just on mobile, which was the original scope during the previous 4 years, but we are now expanded the research also on consumer travel and online travel. The outcomes of the survey can be found in 2 or 3 ebooks that you can download from our website. The ebooks are free of charge and are full of information. I really recommend you to go and download them. The research this year has involved 23,000 travelers from 20 countries, basically from all continents excluding Antarctica. And all respondents are people who have taken at least 2 round-trip flights the year before. And we have interviewed a number of leaders in the industry, a number of travel professionals, in order to make richer the outcome of the survey. And also we have included in the panel companies like TMCs and OTAs. As I said, the survey is focused this year not just on mobile, but on all channels of the travel industry. And you can find summarized here as the main areas in which we have grouped the responses from the survey. Not necessarily in order of importance, but the first comes the super app, and the super app is actually the specific topic I'm going to talk to you about during the next few minutes. Machine learning, it's one of the elements of artificial intelligence. We all have heard about machine learning and how this is changing the workflows and the way we buy and consume travel. Data ROI is in the same area, meaning it's the use that we do of big data. What is the return on the usage of these data? How they can benefit the business and the end traveler. Voice has been for a long time in the category of not too much benefit, meaning that it was seen as a nice thing, but not so relevant. Now, voice search is becoming really important in terms of personalizing the experience, the travel experience, and in terms of seamlessness between different devices that the traveler utilized during their journey. The fourth industrial revolution is probably what keeps all these things all together. The fourth industrial revolution is about a connected world, about the Internet of Things, about predictive analytics is about all the data that we utilize can be part of a single view in terms of anticipating and predicting our customer needs. And Generation Z, let's face it, Generation Z is the generation that is now has come to the age of traveling. These are the new business travelers, the new consumers, and this is a generation that has grown in an age of generating and sharing data. Now these people really expect providers to utilize this data to meet their needs in a better way. Overall, 88% of the respondents to the survey, all the travel professionals, agree on the fact that a mobile strategy is essential, is a critical factor for their business. As I said, these are the general outcomes of the trends that we have detected. For reason of time, I won't go in detail in all of them. As I said, there are the ebooks that you can consult. I will be focusing more on mobile, and in particular to the concept of the super app. Last year, Booking.com launched a survey where more than 12,000 travelers were more than 10,000 travelers, to the percentage of 57%. They said that they wanted a single app for planning and booking their travel needs. So the super app has now become known, have been for long and want the general public, and now we can see that companies are starting to deliver on that need. And to see that, the best place to start is Asia. In Asia, we can see growing a number of companies and competitors that are really leveraging on the concept of super app. But what's a super app? So a super app is a single gateway into an ecosystem of virtual products and services. For the user, from a user perspective, is basically it's an only-one experience. It's a variety of services under one umbrella. And last but not least, it's saving phone memory. All the apps we have on our phones, they just consume memory. A super app can optimize the occupation of the memory in our phones. From a provider perspective, from a travel brand perspective, super apps really represent an incredible volume of customer data. They provide marketplace capability, and they make possible for third parties to join into an ecosystem. Specifically, what we're talking about, when we look at, as I said, to Asia, and we look at, at what happens in China, we have WeChat. WeChat it starts as a messaging application, and now WeChat, they have more than 1 billion of active users on a monthly basis, which is just enormous. And WeChat, they have pioneered the usage of the so-called mini programs. The mini programs are actually apps within WeChat. There are more than 1 million of them. And essentially, this represents a portal for the big community of users that they have. Every major brand has a presence on WeChat through their specific mini program, to their specific app. And essentially, this has created a whole ecosystem of which WeChat is part of. Let's not forget that WeChat is owned by Tencent. Tencent is a company which is active in video streaming services, video games, mobile payments, cloud services. Essentially, Tencent and WeChat is like saying it's a conglomerate of Microsoft plus Google plus Facebook plus Nintendo all in one place. And they are not alone, because it's in Asia. If we move to Singapore, we find Grab. Grab is what can be defined as a decacorn, because it's a company which it's a startup which has an evaluation of more than $10 billion. They have 144 million active users, and the Grab provides a platform for buying ground service transportation, from tuk-tuk, from taxis, from private rides. And they have associated to this core service food delivery, grocery delivery, package delivery, micro lending services, insurance services. So it's really becoming to look like WeChat growingly. And also Gojek, still in Southeast Asia, in Indonesia. Gojek is another startup. They provide today 25 million users. They provide 20 services, including digital payment, video streaming, and again, this is associated to the core business, which is the ride-hailing services. And travel for super apps, for this kind of super app, is absolutely important. It's really an area of growth. Grab has recently introduced hotel bookings directly to the app in partnership with Agoda and Booking.com. And companies like airlines like KLM, they have integrated their mobile website into their WeChat account. So via the WeChat account, a traveler can essentially book flights, can get assistance for issuing the boarding pass, can get notification about their flights, and can interact with the customer service of KLM through the WeChat account, which is a great example of integration into one place of multiple services. And this is what happens in Asia, and the question is what's happening in the Western world. Now, the best player to start with is Google, but Google still is giving us a great example of what happens again in India, because Google has acquired and integrated into their platform Spots. Spots is a platform which basically makes use of these spots, these alerts, which are essentially surfacing to the user when they are tracked at a certain location at a certain time. For instance, a food spot appears at lunchtime, or a taxi spot appear when the user is typically starting its evening commute. So we can really say that Spot is the best Google's answer to the mini programs of WeChat. It's a great example of how online world and offline world can be integrated. A physical business can place one of these spot code, which is essentially are like QR codes, like the one you see in the slide, and the user can just scan or tap if it's an NFC enabled phone on the spot, and automatically get in business with these provider, be it a restaurant or any other kind of provider. So it's an integration of online and offline world. What's happening in the Western world? We talked about Google a moment ago, but when we look at more detail at the Western world, clearly we can identify some obvious, let's say, candidates for becoming players in the super app arena. And as Google already mentioned, Facebook and Uber. So Google, in particular, Google Maps is something that everybody utilizes. When we go out and about, we just look at Google Maps and we look for services, for shops, for providers. We can locate them. We can interact with their website via the platform. Uber has been very explicit in their goals, as their CEO has stated very recently. He said, "We want Uber to be the operating system for your everyday life," which is a very bold statement. And however, it's an important diversification strategy for Uber, given that their core service is under threat from a regulatory perspective in many countries and many cities. And so the widening the scope of the services for them becomes really a key element for sustainability. Facebook as well, in 2019, they laid out a vision to develop a platform to provide e-commerce services, payments, and any other kind of private services. And This is a company operating 3 different messaging platforms: Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. Altogether, it's 2.6 billion of users, which means that probably Facebook is best positioned amongst its competitors to become the super app player. Although the pushback that they received on their Libra payments project could limit in a way the realization of the vision. But let's have a look again at the data from our survey. The 84% of travel professional they are saying it's very important to have a super app, and this is clearly the consequence of the complexity that travelers today are going through, and swapping through multiple apps during their journeys. The airline website, their TMC website, the office booking tool, and so it's a number of different applications they need to utilize. And travel brands, on the other end, they are saying that they are planning to invest in mobile. 81% of travel brands, and they intend to invest in mobile in 2020 and going forward. So for travel brands, this is really the key for delivering a frictionless experience from the beginning of the end to the end of the traveler's journey. And the challenge is how travel brands will deliver this experience via the medium of a super app rather than through their own channel, which has been the case so far. And so they really need to think differently on how to look through the eyes of a customer wanting to utilize a super app, a single place for all their travel needs, instead of managing this in their own channel. So the question that we can ask ourselves is whether the rise of super apps will put an end to the disjointed digital experience. It's fair to say that based on the numbers we see in this slide, that probably the answer is yes, because it's again, we just on one of these super apps, WeChat, we have more than 1 billion users. Today, travelers are utilizing in average 8 apps to manage their trips, far too many. And as we have seen, 80% of travel professionals want to invest in mobile, but at least 45% they are planning to invest into a super app. And so it's clearly the need of super app is now clearly understood also within the industry. And when we look at the travel industry, what are the first movers? We see here some screenshots, some examples. And the first one on the left is Expedia. Expedia, they have long tried to manage, and they actually do that, to manage flights, hotels, and cars through their app. Now they are moving into the next step of the experience, into deeper areas of the journey. They have added a functionality. They have announced the functionality within their app that would alert a hotel that a traveler might be late in checking in, even if irrespective whether the hotel has been booked on their platform or a different platform. And they also added at the end of last year an hotel shuttle tracking service. And so these are clearly new elements into their app, which are making wider and richer the traveler experience. On the right-hand side, we see Delta. Delta has announced the integration with Lyft, which is similarly to Uber, is a high-railing service. Also United and other airlines have followed suit. They have announced their intention of becoming essentially digital concierge for their travelers. And in case you can't beat them, you can join them. I mean, it's Booking.com now has Grab framed into their app, and so users, they can book a ride without leaving the Booking.com experience. And this is just the beginning of a process which will see more and more integration of services going forward. And what are the TMC doing? Actually, and this is for me, these are very good examples. In my opinion, TMCs are actually the ones which within the travel industry will really be providing super apps. If we just look at what Castle Wagoli, BCD, and Tripit they have done, they are really halfway through the process. And if you look at on the right-hand side, you see there is the Amex Global Business Travel app. Through this app, you can book hotels, flights, ground transportation. You can even book a restaurant. So it really is becoming to look like the super app for the business travelers. And what does this mean for the OTAs? Well, the OTAs are the original digital disruptors. They are first generation internet businesses that have identified an unmet customer. They have even in many cases as low-cost airlines, they have created a new demand of services. Now, consumer behaviors and expectations are changing because there is much more focus on experience, on experiential travel. What the new player in the industry are trying to do is to eliminate the friction associated with utilizing multiple apps, multiple tools. This is ultimately where super apps are aiming at. And this is a key threat for OTAs because there is a significant risk of disintermediation from their customers because the experience with super apps will be very likely much better than the one that they can experience using the specific OTAs apps. And this means that OTAs will have to move from the very basic point-to-point thinking, helping people getting from A to B at the lowest possible price. Instead, they must focus on how they can provide a much more immersive experience by being where the customer is at every point in the journey. So OTAs really need to make a step change in terms of technology, in terms of their mindset. They need to consider how they can use the APIs to facilitate the exchange of data between different segments of the journey, different segments of the travel, and in that way they can create really an experience that matters. In OTA, they also need to consider multi-channel messaging. They need to move from being order takers to become advisors, and this can be done effectively with use of multi-channel messaging. They need to communicate with their customers when this is needed, when they're at the right place. So let me now draw this to a conclusion, and I would like to again go back to the wider scope of our survey. So these bullets you see in the slides are not just on super apps, are in general the elements that are coming out from our survey. Once again, you can find these in the ebooks that I mentioned at the beginning of this chat. So the more as in 2020 and beyond, new technologies will give travel brands more opportunities than before to engage with their customers. And we see here the main themes. There is a growing importance of booking on mobile. This is an obvious thing because the penetration of smart devices is growing. And so the propensity of travelers, of users to to fulfill their needs via a smartphone is becoming much critical than before, more critical than before. As a consequence of penetration of smart devices, the adoption of app will continue to accelerate, and so super apps is what we have been talking about so far. Communication creates connection. Our survey shows that travelers are overwhelmingly in favor of receiving information about their trip status, updates on flights, notifications, alerts, notification from the apps. These are all very useful. They want more trip information. They want more transparency on pricing, more transparency on the options. This is not something that just goes in favor of again, transparency for the users, but it's really a good opportunity for upsell for the travel brands because in this way, being given more options, more visibility, the traveler, they can really decide whether they want to buy, a lounge access, Wi-Fi access, extra legroom. All of this can be a business opportunity. And personalization. Personalization is growing fast as a trend. Now, while price is always important, travelers now see value, great value in personalization, even more than getting the best price. So we are at the end of our short chat. Again, for all the reasons that I mentioned before, we deliver this virtually. I hope you have found this interesting for yourself or for your businesses. You can find all the topics I've touched upon briefly during this quick chat on the books that you can download at this address. And thank you for your attention and see you soon. Bye-bye.